I am at ETSI Security Conference and I'm very pleased to be joined by Andreas Mitrakas from ENISA. Thank you so much, Andreas, for joining me today. Could you please start by introducing yourself a little bit and your background in security?
Indeed. Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be at the ETSI Cybersecurity Conference for a very long time in physical presence. I'm head of unit at ENISA in the area of market certification and standardization. This means that we develop policy guidance around a new concept that concerns the cybersecurity markets. We also assist the Commission and the Member States in the area of certification, cybersecurity certification. Of course, we have the important ongoing work on cybersecurity standardization, which is not standardization work as such as a European standards organization like ETSI experiences it, but it's more analytical, pointing to gaps and seeking to find the right stakeholders to get the right message. My background is combined. I'm a trained lawyer, but I have a combined background with technology, management, business procedures. So indeed, I believe I take a holistic view over policy issues.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And just to start with, how does ENISA work with standards organizations, perhaps specifically looking at ETSI?
Indeed, ENISA and ETSI, they have been collaborating, working together since the very early days of ENISA coming to the policy fore. Round about 2006, if memory serves. And a typical example of this cooperation has been related to the good work of ETSI that led standardization back in the day on electronic signatures and later on trust services with the advent of the IDES regulation. Now, ENISA has been shadowing all this work for the purpose of explaining to the stakeholders, producing reports about it, cataloging the standards, from time to time pointing to little gaps here and there. Of course, it's very difficult to argue with material experts, technical experts, but still, developments always allow for a little space for improvement. More recently, with following the adoption of the Cybersecurity Act in 2019, ETSI has been contributing as an active member of the stakeholder Cybersecurity Certification Group, which also allows for broader cooperation on cybersecurity certification between ETSI and ENISA.
Okay, great. And something that's been talked about a lot the last couple of days is 5G and the development of that. How has ENISA been involved in developing support for 5G certification?
ENISA received a request by the Commission that had the ball running on 5G certification. Okay. We have been looking into the organizations that have contributed or developed the standards in the area. We have come across, of course, the good work of the GSMA or the technical specifications in the field, and we've been developing the relationship with them. But equally important is the role of the consortium of 3GPP, and with ETSI being a founding member, we thought that through the experience and the support of ETSI, this relationship would be an easy one to develop. And indeed, the interest of ENISA in this engagement with the 3GPP concerns mostly the area when we identify gaps and when we have change requests over time, assuming, of course, that we have an adopted scheme in the first place, how and when they would be taken up by the consortium in order to produce the next version of the technical specifications that would then be fed into the certification scheme. It's not an easy matter, but ETSI having both the ability to relate, but also the ability to share experience, I think it's quite important for ENISA. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And something else that's been brought up this week is looking at standards from more of a worldview. How can ETSI address more the global industry when it comes to standardization?
ETSI has reached the point where it's able to serve the global industry needs in terms of standardization. It acts as a good reference for European prowess in this area. This is not to be discarded. Still, in an EU context, in relation to harmonized standards, consumer protection, other aspects of public interest, member states play a paramount role, and of course the Commission. So indeed, when ENISA, which is an organization that focuses on the EU internal markets, came across such a situation, I mean, it can be noted that ENISA benefited from the guidance and knowledge of member states' experts that also act at the technical level in the area of certification. So we're trying to make the most from the knowledge that these individuals represent, regardless of them having an industry or a government background.
Okay, and I'm just interested, what do you see the major challenges for kind of making these more global and addressing that global industry?
Look, challenge is what lies ahead probably concerns aspects of policy, like as they have been highlighted with Cyber Resilience Act, the CRA, which points to a broad range of products that circulate in the internal markets. I think with time we'll come across requests or a similar instrument for certification scheme, and they are probably quite likely the good experience of ETSI in developing IoT related standards will play a role. I'm also very hopeful because we have the good example of collaboration with the annual Standardization Certification Conference that is co-organized by ETSI, Senelec, and ENISA. And I think that brings forward the important bond that exists across ESOs and the Cybersecurity Agency.
And how important is this collaboration and bonds between not just similar organizations, but standards and certifications and everything?
Essentially, we talk about wheels that need to be synchronized in order to make the whole cart move forward. Standardization is what you need in order to get into the point where you can assess something being conformant to requirements and get the certificate in the end. It's a bit like, if I want to vulgarize that, it would be like trust but verify. Okay. You create trust by having the standards, the common specifications that reflect technical requirements. And then we verify when we put all that into the schemes that conformity assessment bodies use in order for a certificate to be issued.
Okay, so to really have proper cybersecurity, proper trust, you need all of these players to be involved.
Indeed. And that's what we have in the EU internal market with a range of instruments, the new legislative framework as it is, it has been known, the Cybersecurity Act, and indeed, this is the purpose that we serve, let's say, in this context, indeed.
And you mentioned looking to the future, looking more at IoT and those kinds of things. What other things can we look forward to from ENISA?
ENISA has been working very hard to produce the schemes for common criteria, the UCC. We have a cloud scheme, the UCS, at a very advanced level. And we're halfway through producing the first edition of the EU 5G. Okay. Now, I do not have my crystal ball along with me because I'm traveling. But I think I mentioned the CRA out of memory, and possibly other instruments that contain a provision for certification, like AI, for instance. We have a recent draft are likely to lead to that direction. The NIS Directive 2 is also another instrument that is coming along with some bearing on certification.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me, Andreas. I hope you have a brilliant rest of the time at the ETSI Security Conference.
Great. Many thanks to you, Philippa, and to ETSI, of course, for the opportunity.